Hey everyone, this is Leanne from Of Love and Shiplap and the founder of Sub That Tutorials and More. Please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you never miss out on any of our videos. And check the video description for a link to the Sub That mobile learning library app. This free app will give you access to all of our free tutorials, easy to find and navigate, organized into content libraries, as well as the option to subscribe for access to our exclusive content and community, such as our Affinity masterclasses. In this quick tutorial, I want to show you how to create a template that's been provided for you by a blank supplier into a template you can use in Affinity Designer. This definitely makes life a little bit easier when you have templates, and I really love companies that actually provide templates like Johnson Plastics Plus. I think almost every single one of their products does come with a template, even ones that maybe don't need a specific template because it's just a rectangle or a circle. They're really good about providing those materials for you. I think that this is an important thing for blank suppliers to do because when you're trying to print something, you want to make sure that it wraps a certain way, falls a certain way. You want a visualization of everything about your design, and having a template makes that possible. It makes it possible to line up designs with odd shaped items as well. Or if you're dealing with like clip art elements that are supposed to match up with a specific substrate, all of those benefit from having templates. This is also one of the reasons why I often recommend purchasing from the recommended suppliers that have really good reputations, because when you're purchasing a product, you are not just paying for the product itself. You're paying for the entire experience, start to finish, of making that product. And companies that go out of their way to provide templates and video tutorials and step-by-step instructions and all of those things for your benefit are the ones that care about your success, offer the better product value when it's all said and done, give you the good customer service, and that actually is what you end up paying for. I heavily support the idea of paying a little bit more to get a product from a company that can give you all the things that you actually need and ensure your success. That being said, Johnson's Plastics Plus does offer templates with pretty much every product that they have. We're going to be doing this stemless wine glass in a tutorial that happened to come with the sublimation trend box that recently came. So if we scroll down, we can see that we have various template formats: CDR, EPS, JPEG, PDF, and Photoshop. If you are using Affinity Designer, your default choice is always going to be a PDF version if they have it. Your second choice would be the EPS. Your third choice would be the JPEG. Now, I have seen many smaller suppliers only provide a JPEG template. Sometimes they've just traced it. Sometimes they have like scanned it into the computer. You can always choose to trace an object on a piece of paper and scan it into your computer if it's like an obscure shape and you need a template for it and don't have one, can't find one, etc. I have covered that in a different video, an older video about creating a template. So it's as simple as taking the object, tracing it with a Sharpie on a white piece of paper, and scanning it into your computer with a scanner. So whether you do that or whether a JPEG is provided for you, you will be able to work with that format. First and foremost, if you are provided a JPEG, or if you create an outline for yourself and scan it, you need to convert it into a vector format. My favorite website for free conversion is this convergio.co. You're going to upload that JPEG format. Let's see. You're going to upload your JPEG format, and you'll see that it says from JPEG to, and from that drop down, you're going to come to where it says vector, and you're going to choose EPS. This is going to give you a vector format that will easily be able to be manipulated in Affinity Designer. It'll be able to be saved as a template in Affinity. That's what you want. You want to have something that is in a vector format. So again, if you were provided with a JPEG, like a scan of some sort of a product as a template, or if you traced a product yourself and scanned it in, this is what you will do. You will come to this website first, upload that JPEG, convert it to an EPS. All right, so once you have that done, you're going to have some type of vector format. So if you did that, or if you downloaded the PDF version of a template, that's where your starting point is in Affinity Designer. So what we will do is come to File and Open, and you are going to open that option that you have. So in this case, I do have my PDF version first, and then I'll just touch on the EPS. There isn't a huge difference between them. They just look a little bit different. So here's my PDF version. It's going to ask me if it wants to load all pages, and I'm going to click OK. The PDF version by default is going to be accurately sized for printing, for what this should be on print. If we look at this template at the bottom, it shows us right here, the dimensions should be 11.03 by 3.27. In our layers panel, we can see all of the different layers that are on our PDF file. If we select that outer edge, that blue layer, which is our print area, it's color coded for us, and come to transform, it's currently in point, so we'll fix that. We'll come to File, Document Setup, where it says Page Units, choose inches, then click OK. And we can see that it is measuring at 11.03 by 3.27, which is exactly what this says that it's supposed to be. So this is the correct size it should be. All of the stuff that's on this page is just jargon. We don't really need any of that. And if we want a template in Affinity that we can easily drag and drop our graphics into and manipulate them, then we just need to have this layer, this outer layer. So in order to accommodate that, we will open up a new document that is the size that this can fit on. You have two options in this case. The first is that you can choose to open it on a letter size document because it could be tilted and then it would be ready for printing right on there. But I always recommend that you export your PNG and print from there. So if you're like designing in this, you want to keep that in mind is all I'm saying about that. But otherwise, you can open one that is just a little bit bigger than this. So we could do 4 inches by 12 inches as our document size. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to come to File, New. I'm going to come to my Layout tab. Keep in mind, if you're using version 1 of Affinity Designer, there is a slight difference in the document setup panel, but all of the options are still the same. My page width is going to be 12. My page height is going to be 4. Underneath my color tab, I want to have my color format set to RGB/8 with the color profile sRGB IEC 61966-2.1. These settings are universal when you are designing, when you are setting up a design. You would only ever change this if you had a reason to with your printing, which really is only for Macs. Almost everyone is using this profile because this is the most current profile. This profile is not your ICC profile for printing. That's completely separate, completely outside of the program. I always have to enforce this because you never know who is watching a video and if it's their first day, and we always want to make sure people have all the information. So these are your universal settings. This is what you want to have it set as. Once you have it done, set create. Come back over to that layer and you're going to choose that blue curved layer. And you're going to right click on that and choose copy. Come over to your new document and you're going to right click and paste. And then you can go ahead and center that on the page. I like things to be centered, but now you have the start of your template point. Now let me just show you the EPS for a second. This would be the one that we converted from a JPEG to an EPS. So same thing, I'm going to go to File and then Open. I'm going to choose my EPS version. You can see that this one is in black and white, and it doesn't actually convert every single thing accordingly. But we do have this outside edge. Once again, we're in point, so let's come to File, Document Setup, Document Units, Inches, OK, and we can see our measurements. Now notice with this one, the measurement is showing 45.961 and 13 inches high for that same layer. This is much too big. This is why it's important to pay attention to the dimensions that are provided, if they are provided. And if they're not provided, make sure you do your own measuring so that you can determine the size accordingly. It is important to note that if you are working with something that has a tapered shape, like the stemless wine glass or a pint glass, the measurements that you get are going to be smaller than the actual measurements of your template, because the way that this is curved adds size to it. I know there's a lot to really think about when it comes to templates. This is again why it's so beneficial when a company does provide them and has done that work for you to really ensure your success with their product. So with this one, all that we would do is come over to our transform panel, and where the width is, I'm going to enter in the measurements that are stated, which is 11.03, click enter, and now it is resized. And now this one, you would open up another document again, copy and paste just like we did. The next step is going to be the same after that. So I'm going to exit out of that and come back to here. If the template that you have created or you're working with doesn't require any kind of warp effect, like this one, we see that this is tapered, our design needs to be warped to fit this. But let's say it was just like an elf cutout shape or a wood slice cutout shape. If it doesn't require any kind of actual warping adjustment, then you can go ahead and export at this point as a template. You will come to File, you will choose Export as Template. This was a feature that was added in Affinity Designer version 1. Towards the end, it wasn't always there. It wasn't there when I did my original template video. It had been added along the way. So you're going to choose the Export as Template option. You're going to figure out where you want them. You can see I have Affinity templates here. So I have Affinity software, and then I come to my Affinity templates folder, and I can do, this is my 12-ounce wine glass template. Now, of course, this is not the template that I would be saving normally because I want to add the warp adjustment layer, but just for reference, if you need a template that doesn't have any kind of warping, you would just save it like this. You would also save a template that does need warping if you have Affinity Designer version 1 like this as well, because you won't have the warping function in Affinity Designer version 1. You can choose to open it in Affinity Photo version 1 and use the mesh warp tool. I have covered this in the sunflower pint glass video lesson, so you can watch the beginning of that if you want to see that whole thing in action. But you'll save your template wherever you have your Affinity templates on your file explorer. For me, mine are under OneDrive. Click Save. Okay. Now when you come to File and then New, underneath your template section, you have your templates folder, which you have to add. And if we scroll down somewhere, it should be in here somewhere. There we go, 12-ounce wine glass template. Now, if you don't have your folders yet, you just click the Add Folder option. Here, it's an icon down here. It's a little bit different on version 1 of Affinity Designer, but on version 2, we do have this Add Folder function built in here. So that then you can just open the template, click Create, and it's ready for you to use. Now, for any template that requires a warp effect, we need to create a PNG layer that we are going to be able to then swap out in the future anytime we have a design that we want to bring in for this particular project, for whatever it is. So you would do this on every single type of warped template that you create. You do not need to do this on the templates that are that don't require any warping. This is just about, you know, champagne flutes, wine tumblers, pint glasses, the Scotch glasses, tumblers that are not perfectly straight, basically anything like that that has a taper that you have to adjust your printout for. Like this is adjusted for that. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to create that layer by selecting the rectangle tool. We're going to click and drag across our document. I'm going to give this a fill color that's easy to see. So we'll come to our color panel. We're going to choose the open circle. We're going to choose no fill. We're going to choose the filled circle. And I'm going to make this yellow because that's easy to see. This layer should be the measurements of your actual product. Very important. Not the measurements of the template, the measurement of your actual product that you would make the design that size for. In the case of our stemless wine glass, that is 10 inches in width. So I want to make sure I have that rectangle selected. That is 10 inches in width, and the height is 3 inches. That's the print area that we have. Oops. Make sure you unlock your aspect ratio and then enter in your 10 inches by 3 inches. We're going to center this on the page over top of our curve first, but then we'll drag it below so that we can see our curve on top. So we've got a curve layer on top, and we've got our rectangle layer right here on the bottom. With that rectangle layer selected, you're going to go to File, Export, make sure you have PNG selected, and then where it says Area, choose Selection Only, and Export. You can see I've already saved it. I just saved it as Place Image here, and you can select Save. Now you're going to delete this rectangle, and instead you're going to select the Place Image tool, and you're going to import that PNG layer that you just exported. Size it and place it in the middle. Well, you shouldn't need to size it. Just when you see the downward arrow in Portal, just click and drop it. You can always verify the size over in the Transform panel. Remember that due diligence is your friend. Double check it over there. Once again, we want it below that curve layer. The reason why you do this step with exporting and then re-importing instead of right-clicking and rasterizing this is that when you right-click and rasterize that curve, you're not going to have this option to replace your image. We want to have this option built in to our template. Next, we want to go over to the pixel persona. Again, all of these steps are only in version 2 of Affinity Designer, just in case I didn't emphasize that before. And with that layer selected, our PNG layer, we will come to Layer, New Live Filter Layer, and you're going to choose Mesh Warp. Now what we want to do is line up all of our nodes and our line with the blue curve template. So I'm going to start with, I always like to do the corners first. So I'm going to take that corner, line it up with that corner. That node, line it up with that corner. Go across, same thing. The next thing I like to do is straighten out the sidelines. So we're going to adjust that little arm so it's straight, adjust that arm so it's straight. And now everything is lined up the way it's supposed to be. Same deal over here. We'll click on that node, adjust that arm so it's straight, adjust this arm so it's straight, and everything lines up on our line. Now, when you're working in the curves, I always recommend you pull from the middle. If you don't want to like eyeball it, simply come to View and then Guides. And where it says Vertical Guides, click the little plus sign to add a vertical guide and close. So you have a guide now. And now you can simply click right on the middle of that line and drag down right along your guideline. And you can do the same thing on the bottom. And now you'll just double check to make sure everything lined up. If there was anything you needed to adjust, everything looks like it is clipped directly into our, or shaped exactly to our curve. That's what we want. Once you have that done, select Done. Now we're going to clip this inside of our curve. You're just going to click and drag so that the name touches, or so that your cursor is touching the name of that layer. I'll do it again. Oops. I accidentally undid my mesh warp. Don't do that. Okay, so select the icon, hold your cursor down, drag it so that the cursor is touching the name of the curve layer, and now it is saved inside of there. We have our Place Image tool, and this you can click on and rename Print Edge. Now, just like we did before, we are going to save this as a template. So we're going to go File, Export as Template. I'm going to come over to my correct templates folder, and I am going to find the same one, wine glass template. I'm just going to replace that one because that's the one I want, and choose Save. Now, when we open up our template, so let's exit out of this because we don't need this anymore. We'll exit out of this one because we don't need this one anymore. When we go to File, New, and we choose our templates, and we choose that, and we click Create. All we have to do is come to our mesh warp layer and choose replace image. And when we do this, it will replace this with an image and warp it automatically. That's the benefits of the live warp versus the pixel warp function that you deal with in Affinity Photo. With the live warp, it can easily be swapped out. So once you've created your design at a 10 inches by 3 inches size, you can just come into your template, replace image, and you are ready to go in terms of having that done. Don't forget that anytime you do that with a product, you do need to rasterize before you print. So you will right click and choose rasterize. That will allow you to print. And of course, you're going to resize this for your page. This wine template, when it's all said and done, will actually fit on a letter size page. You just have to rotate it. That will be shown in the actual tutorial on the wine template or the wine tumbler, sorry. But this was just to kind of cover how to take any template that's been provided for you and make it into a template you can actually use in Affinity quick and easy every single time. From here on out, every time I want to make a wine tumbler, all I need to do is make sure my design is sized to 10 inches by 3 inches, come over into here, select that, select replace image, and just like that, it will be warped the way it needs to be and it's ready to print. Definitely saves you some hassle, especially if you're doing a lot of items that have these tapered shapes like pint glasses and champagne flutes and wine tumblers and so on. This just makes your life that much easier, faster to produce the product that you are looking for. So this was your tutorial on how to take any template that's provided for you and create it into a template you can use in Affinity Designer.